topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Tennessee, Missouri. Hey, Missouri's one of my favorite states. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Hey, do we have an incredible show for you today? Hey, just a little behind the scenes. Our first show today, our expert has been with us for about a year now. We do 35 shows a month. This is our third highest ranked show. Now, you go, well, it's not second or first, but our first and second show are 1 hour shows, and they've both been with us for 10 years. So unbelievable the response that we're getting with your letters. People love the show. Let me introduce you to my superstar, attorney Lance Drury.
Good afternoon, Steve. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I love your show.
I know. I got to tell you, I love doing your show. It's so easy to do because most of my shows, I have to write out my questions. I don't have to do that with your show. We get so many people with questions writing in. And I guess, first of all, because I just saw your numbers from your last show in San Antonio we did. We've got to let people know about your firm because we have got so many new people tuning in every week.
Well, I'm situated in St. Genevieve, Missouri. That's the home office. I was born and raised here. It's a small historic town on the banks of the Mississippi, settled by the French in the 1700s. I have an office in St. Louis, Nashville, Tennessee, San Antonio, Texas, and just last month, we're now in Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas.
So we keep going, and we want to go beyond to Miami and Los Angeles because my goal is to help as many people as possible, and that's exactly what we're doing.
You know, I'm here in South Florida, which is Palm Beach, Broward County, that's Fort Lauderdale, Dade County, which is Miami. And I know they pick you up on your national show, but we need you here. There are not very many local companies here in South Florida, Lance, that actually do what you do. I got to tell you, I love doing this show because I think about you will bring up every so often that you're a small town attorney. Look what you have created.
Oh my God, it's amazing. When my major legal assistant, she basically runs the in-house operations, although she's down to 2 days a week because she's going to retire in the spring. But she was with me when I ran 8 public defender offices back in the early 90s. And she's been here now for 13, 14 years. And when we look at where we were, and when she started, we were just in St. Genevieve. And now, my God, we're all over the place. We've gone from like 60 to 80 clients to over 1,000 clients. And one day I'm going to have 2,000 to 3,000 clients at any one time that we're helping out. But yeah, we just sit back and it's really amazing how far we've progressed and what we've done in the last 12, 13 years.
Well, I know we're here. We're so blessed to be part of it. Let's get to the question, Lance. That's what people want. So
That's fine, Steve.
we're going to start off with Drake in Kansas City. He said, I heard about your show from a friend of mine. I was wondering, what is the difference between a levy and a lien?
Well, a levy and a lien are distinguished by the fact that a levy is an actual seizure of assets or property or income. A lien is just like you just file it with the recorder of deeds in the county in which you live. They're not going to take anything from you. However, if you sell your home or any real estate, those liens have to be satisfied at the time of sale. So if you do sell your home once you have an IRS lien in place, you're going to lose the amount of that lien if you sell the home for more than the amount of the lien. But a levy, they'll take your wages, they'll wipe out your bank account, they'll take 100% of your 1099s. So that's nothing to mess with. And I've got to tell you, Steve, normally in the summer, it's slow. My business goes down because people don't worry about their tax problems. They want to go out, have fun in the sun, travel, whatever. But this was different. In June of this year, we had a record revenue month since I've been in business. And then in August, we broke that record because the IRS was levying people or sending threatening letters to people all the time. And that's when people call me, when those nasty letters go out. And don't be fooled. The IRS, has furloughed half of its employees, but the automated collection system is still sending out levy letters. So, you got to pay attention to them, because if you don't, you're going to lose your income. You're going to lose your bank account. So you don't want that to happen.
I've learned so much from you, Lance. And one of the things I am telling you, folks, you do not want to try and handle the IRS yourself. I don't care if you think you're the greatest negotiator on earth. When it comes to the IRS, they've got you beat, especially when you have a company like Lance Drury. Because, Lance, what I've learned from you is if you get on the phone with the IRS, you could end up hurting yourself so much more than helping yourself, rather than just call you on the phone and get started with you.
That's exactly right, Stephen. We do not call the IRS unless there's a deadline already in place because the client called them up before we got involved, because all that does is put you on the radar. Or we call them up when we're ready to get an agreement done with the IRS. But I've seen so many people just hurt themselves terribly by picking up the phone and calling the IRS thinking that, if I act in good faith, the IRS is going to reciprocate, but it doesn't work that way. And so you have to have legal representation. People think this is easy. But when I was a small town lawyer, I just did 15 hours of continuing legal education a year. Now, myself and all 8 of my other attorneys, we spend a minimum of 50 to 100 hours a year or more just keeping up with this. Next week, we have a 3-day webinar. So we'll have well over 20 hours in just 1 week, keeping up with everything that's going on with the IRS.
This is from Sharon in Nashville. Great letter, Sharon. She says, your show is God sent. I will be contacting your firm this week. We've already given her your phone number and your website already. She said, can you help release a bank levy or wage garnishment once it's happened?
Yes. Now, the bank levy is only good. They got to hold the funds for 21 days. And it's the date that levy hits the bank. So the thing that you want to do is you can't delay on a bank levy because we've only got 21 days to get it lifted. And we have to show the IRS that it would be a financial hardship on you, which most of the time is not difficult to do, because how are you going to pay the bills if that levy's not lifted? On a wage levy, yes, we can get that lifted too, but here's the main difference between a wage levy and a bank levy. The bank levy is only good for the day it hits. Any money's put in afterwards, they can't touch. But the amount that's in that bank account when they hit it with a levy, that's the amount they can come after. But a wage levy, on the other hand, is continuous. It is continuous until you get that levy lifted. So if you don't do anything with that bank levy, and I know people that have ignored it, or that wage levy, they've ignored it and they just keep taking money out and keep taking money out, because the burden is on the taxpayer to prove to them that they don't have the ability to pay it back. They're not going to go out and do an independent investigation to see what your financial situation is like. That's incumbent upon you to do that, and you need professional help. That's where you get the biggest bang in hiring my firm, because we look at those financial statements every day. Nobody fills them out right. They're confusing. They're complicated to the average individual. And at the end of it, after we get all those numbers from you, we can perhaps give you advice on how to structure your assets and your expenses so you get a better deal out of Uncle Sam.
Lance, if there's a bank levy, does that hurt your relationship with the bank? Do they maybe not want to do business with you anymore?
Now, I haven't heard that so much, Steve, but what I have heard is that 1099 individuals, they will go ahead and levy their customers, and a lot of their customers then don't want to do business with you because they don't want to have to deal with the IRS. So the bigger thing that I've seen is if you're a 1099 and you have accounts receivable coming in, some of those companies don't want to go through all that extra paperwork. So it could hurt you there if you're a business person and you're self-employed.
Here's Mark in Springfield. We just actually got this one. He said, I saw your promotion about your show. He said, I have to get this in because I'm going to be in my car. Can I go to jail for owing taxes?
No, not really. I mean, if there's some fraud involved or something, then potentially there is. So I tell everybody in the initial consult, you can't go to jail for not paying your taxes, but you can go to jail for not filing your tax returns. And so you've got to file those tax returns. And with the IRS, you have to file the last 6 years in order to be compliant. The IRS won't even talk to you about an agreement with them till you get the last 6 years tax returns prepared and filed.
Do they give you time to file those?
Well, they may give you time to file them, but you're not going to get an agreement until they're prepared and filed. So you want to get them done as soon as possible. And then here's the other thing. This time of year, particularly self-employed people, they haven't been making estimated tax payments all year. So guess what? They're going to owe for this year when the tax becomes due in April of next year. So we tell them, we're not going to get you a deal until you get that filed, because if we get you a deal, our services are concluded. We revoke your power of attorney. If you get more tax liability, they're going to default you on the agreement. So rather than having them have to hire us twice, we will delay a resolution until the tax returns are filed next year so that they don't have to pay us twice to get a deal with the IRS.
Oh, here's a great letter. This is from Robert in Columbus. Robert in Columbus. He wants to know, he said, I've been listening to your show for the last 4 months. I've actually learned to trust you because I don't trust all these commercials that tell you pennies on the dollar. I have learned to trust you. Is it really true about pennies on the dollar? Or is that just false advertising?
No, it can happen. The problem is those people don't know that before they do the work. There's a bunch of these scam artists, and they'll send out what looks like an official document from the IRS, but there's no physical address. There's an 800 or an 888 number, and it'll say we can settle for 10 cents on the dollar. They don't know that. And so here's the other thing that I tell people. I mean, it can happen. 10 to 15% of our clients never pay a dime, but you have to prove to the IRS they don't have the ability to pay anything back. So I tell everybody in the initial consult, there's 3 rules if you don't hire my firm. You hire an attorney that does this every single day. You don't want somebody that just dabbles in this. I told you earlier in this show how many hours we put in every year just keeping up with this. Don't hire an accountant. Accountants are great with the numbers, but all my attorneys and myself have seen accountants give horrendous advice to their clients on how to deal with the IRS because they just dabble in it. Secondly, go local. And number 3, don't hire one of the big boys. There's a lot of scam artists out there. They just take your money and they don't do anything for you. They'll have a salesman on the phone. We tell everybody up front what this is going to cost. We like to do fixed fees, but a lot of these firms never tell anybody how much it's going to cost, and they keep asking for money every single month. I've seen people spend $15,000, $20,000 or more,
Wow.
and nothing gets done because they don't do any work on it. They just take your money, or they don't respond to phone calls. They don't communicate with their clients. So we get people who go to those big national firms, they don't get anywhere, and then they call us. So yes, it is possible to settle for little or no monies, but you got to prove it to the IRS. Basically, here's the deal. If there's money left over at the end of the month after your income and your expenses, your household expenses, Uncle Sam wants it. So, that's the deal. So, obviously the less you owe or the more money you make, the more likely you're going to pay it all back.
Emily in St. Louis wants to know, if I haven't filed in the last 3 years and I've got to become compliant, does your firm put the taxes together for me, or do I have to find an outside CPA firm?
No, we can put we offer doing tax returns. We subcontract with accountants. That way they get the same confidentiality that an attorney has. So yes, years ago I didn't do it, and I thought it was a disservice to my clients because they would never get the returns done. So I finally offered that as an additional service for my clients, just so the returns would get done quicker. But you've got to get the returns done, Emily. It's a crime not to file your tax returns. So I can't sit here and tell you not to file. And here's the other thing, Emily. A lot of people don't file. They prepare the return. They see they're going to owe a bunch of money. They can't pay all that money, so they don't file. Well, here's why that's a huge mistake not to file, because the IRS will zap you with a failure to file penalty. Now, that failure to file penalty is 5% per month that the tax return is late for the first 5 months, and then it maxes out at 25%. So if you owe Uncle Sam $10,000 in raw tax, now it's $12,500 because of the failure to file penalty, and we haven't even begun to talk about the failure to pay penalty or interest. Emily, if you and I charged what Uncle Sam charges for penalties and interest, we'd be in the federal penitentiary serving time. But they can get by with it because they make the rules. So get those returns done and do it as soon as possible.
David in St. Louis, should I file my taxes even if I can't afford to pay them? I think you just answered that.
I think I did, Steve. Yeah. You got to file them regardless, or you're going to have a huge failure to file penalty on your hands.
Julie in Springfield wants to know, how strict is the IRS on deadlines?
They're very strict. Here there are mandatory deadlines. You can't file. It's just like a court of law. You can't file appeals in the U.S. tax court if you miss the deadline. You can't. They're free to levy. Now, that doesn't mean that there's going to be a levy come the next day, particularly if you're in the automated collection system. But if you got a revenue officer and he sends you a 9297, which is a summary of taxpayer contact, and basically it's all the financial information, bank statements, things of that nature, for them to determine what your ability to pay is. They don't tell you this, but at the bottom of that page, it says, if you don't meet this deadline, one of the consequences is we're going to levy you. And lo and behold, people always miss something because it's confusing, it's complicated. And so what happens is with us, they'll call us and say, hey, we need this or that. And we already know what it is that we need. And we stay in constant communication with them. But with a regular taxpayer, that revenue officer is not going to tell you that you don't have this here or that here. They're just going to go ahead and levy you.
Philip in Memphis wants to know, will the IRS remove penalties?
Yes, there's two ways. One is what's called a first-time penalty abatement, and that's for 1 year only. And the way you can accomplish that is you have to be 100% compliant for 3 years before the year in which you're seeking first-time penalty abatement. And what that means is you had to file on time and pay on time. If you were 1 day late with your filing, you're not 100% compliant and you're not going to get the first-time penalty abatement. I had a guy, a lot of times, the first-time penalty abatement can be worth tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. The other way is what's called a penalty abatement for reasonable cause. You can't just get it for any reason. I can't just call them up and say, Joe Blow's a nice guy. Why don't you abate the penalties for him? You have to have a good reason. One of the biggest reasons, and we've been successful with, is if people have medical problems or there's medical problems within the family. That's probably the biggest instance where you're going to get penalty abatement for reasonable cause. But by and large, that's not something that we can have the IRS grant the majority of the time.
Lance, I'm going to share something with you. We got a few minutes left. When it comes to owing the IRS, it's got to be the biggest load on a person's back. They lose sleep. It hurts, I'm sure, relationships. It's just, I think that's why this show is so important, because I read these letters that we get, and there are a lot of people out there hurting, and they're afraid to ask somebody because they don't want someone to know they haven't been paying their taxes. That's what's so great about a show like this. Let's tell people how they can reach you.
Well, all the numbers are down at the bottom of the show there. So I'm not going to talk about the individual numbers, but you can go to lancedrurylaw.com. There's a lot of great free information there. You'll see all kinds of things about the firm, all the testimonials, the award that I've won, the books I've co-authored, the speeches I've given across the country. And there's just lots of great information there. So go to lancedrurylaw.com. You can find out all the telephone numbers for all the various offices. When you get there, there's even a toll-free number there. So yeah, that's how you can get a hold of me. We're here to help. We're here to help save people's marriages, their businesses, their income, their retirement. And we are, you're right. They're going up against the most terrifying agency in the federal arsenal, and you can't do this on your own.
So you can, if a friend of yours or a family member has a problem with the IRS, doesn't matter what part of the country, have them tune in Monday at 8:25 Central Time. And that's Lance's national show he does with us. Lance, bro, I love doing this show with you.
I love doing it with you, Steve. This is just, you don't know how happy it makes me to be here.
You're touching so many people's lives. I mean, our numbers keep going up and going up for your show. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm. We'll see you on Monday.
Can't wait, Steve.
Okay. Hey, that's attorney Lance Drury with the Lance Drury Law Firm. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.